College football nation, we are back. We are back with a big week. The heater continues. I don't think we've given you many losers this year. We have 3 weeks in a row. If you're watching this show, you're making money. And we're doing that again this week. I love this slate. I love there's some clear guys to target. We're going to go through it, but we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. Instead of going through the depth charts like we normally do, we're just going to give our favorite plays. I just think the way this week sets up, I don't think we want to go through every team. There's maybe one or two guys that targets from some teams. We'll mention them, and then we'll stick to the high totals and the games that we really want to target. Before we dive in for this week, Dave, how you doing?
Oh, doing great, Joel. I mean, yeah, another big week last week. Cash games, money, GPPs, cashing most of those. It just felt like we're kind of onto something here. And I know – we've talked about this before. College football market, DFS-wise, is one, if you just spend a little bit of time, do your homework, it's there to be had.
And that's so true. There is an edge. And one of the biggest things with college that I'm really noticing this week, the research that's showing me, is that these college teams change year to year, right? And teams that were really good at one thing last year might not be that good at it this year. And you can target that defense while everyone still thinks it's the same defense from last year, and it's not. And there might be a way to target them and before everyone else comes around to the fact that they aren't as good as they used to be. So that's the type of thing I'm looking for. Granted, it's still early in the year, and maybe these teams we don't know fully who they are yet. But now that we're 3 games in, we're starting to get a little bit of a sense of who these teams are. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do, let's just give a quick recap of how we did last week.
Yeah, I think we had a huge week. I mean, that Syracuse-Purdue game, going into the fourth, we were like, oh, man, what did we do? But then that banger of a fourth, the 8-0 Kyle, Charlie Jones had a huge fourth. And then Schrader, we said how mispriced he was last week, and he was a huge play. We even talked about Tucker, but maybe not playing him as heavy if you're going to play Schrader, and that turned out to be the right combo there. Just focus on Schrader. So that was great. I think we did great in the Ole Miss game, too, understanding Georgia Tech so bad against the run. Evans pounded him big. And I know we talked a few other points. Austin Reed at WKU, big one. And Brock Bowers. Joel, you were talking about him and you loved him, and he came through.
He did. And that's the thing with these college teams. I know like a lot of teams, they spread the ball around. But at the end of the day, if they have a superstar, they're not going to go 3 or 4 games without having a big day. These guys are superstars for a reason. They're going to make big plays. So I was kind of going on Bowers where like he was due. It was just kind of like, it's only so long before this guy has a big day. And then that was kind of my thought process behind him there. I also want to mention Tyree on Notre Dame. They had said all week they wanted to get him more involved. They did. He wasn't great, but for 4K, like that price was too cheap for someone they were looking to get involved. So he certainly paid off if you played him as well.
And Jalen Daniels, another just money play, 42+ points in the DK market. So, he's someone we might talk about today.
Well, listen, we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
And honestly, my biggest concern with him, I thought it was obvious, right? So my biggest concern was ownership. He ended up not even being that highly owned. It was only like 12%, which for that number, I would have played. If I'd known that going in, I would have played more of him. I actually was scared that his ownership would have gotten too high, but it didn't. So that was obviously the smash.
Yeah, Schrader got to 42, but that was okay because sometimes you have to play that, right? We've always talked about you do have to play those smash plays with the public and win the other battles. So that was fine playing Schrader at 42%.
For sure. Yeah, sometimes because the trouble is if you fade a guy at 42% and he goes off, your week's over. It's almost more dangerous to do that. So
I agree.
All right, so let's get into this. This week is going to be a little bit of a quicker show because I think there's just some more obvious plays. We're going to kind of narrow in on the guys that we're looking at for this week, who we're targeting, and we'll kind of take it from there. There's some games that you can probably fully stay away from. Why don't we start there tonight, David? Any games that you figure we don't even need to look at much at all?
I probably won't get much into the Baylor ISU game. I do like one, maybe a receiver or two, but probably not. I just don't think it's enough. I know ISU has that one really good wide receiver. What's his name out there? And he gets like 80% of the targets, but I'm probably staying away from that game.
I'll touch on that. I actually like Hutchinson a lot. I'm going to play him. My reasoning is I think Baylor's got a really good run D, so I think they're going to have to throw. They're going to force the ball to, and Baylor has given up some big games to receivers.
Yep.
So He's a little pricey. He's probably more of a GPP play because you got to pay up for him. But I think he could explode this week.
Yeah, so maybe Hutchinson and about it, I would think.
That's it. Yeah, and maybe you stack him with the quarterback because he's really cheap. So if you think they're gonna have a big day together, I can get behind that. But I wouldn't play anyone else on that game.
Yeah, and then for me, I'm probably not going to get too deep in this Mizzou Auburn. I'm torn, right? Because TJ Finley's out, but do I take a shot on Ashford at 5,000 at quarterback? Maybe. Mizzou's pretty bad on defense, but Bigsby maybe. But they don't wow me. I don't see high ceiling with these guys. So that game, I don't have a lot of faith in that game.
I'm going back and forth on that game. I think that game could be an interesting, sneaky play for a GPP because I think Auburn's defense is just not as good as people think as a typical Auburn. I mean, Penn State just put up 40-something points on them.
Yes.
And I actually think Mizzou's quarterback, Cook, is in play because he runs the ball. So he'll get some of those running yards. He's pretty cheap. There's not a ton of cheap options out there for this week. So if you want to look for a cheap quarterback, it's a flyer, right? It's a GPP play. I wouldn't call it safe to play in cash, but I think you could take that flyer.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Any games you staying away from?
So for me, I think you hit the nail on the head with those two. Let me just see if there's anything else.
Clemson Wake. I don't know. I always get his name wrong. Maybe, right? And Shipley, maybe, but I don't know.
I actually think I'd be on the other side of that game. I think I'd go Hartman and Perry more because
yeah.
I think they're going to put up some points. I just don't trust you, I think that game can get maybe a higher scoring, but if I'm going to play the Clemson side, I think I'd go Shipley in the running game just because I just really don't trust you lately. If I'm being honest.
No, I think it's time for a change almost soon.
I think it should have happened already. I don't know why he's still out there.
I think we'll know this week because I think they got NC State next week. So Club Nick's he's ready, and I think he's shown he's ready. So we'll see him. We'll see him sooner than later.
And then, I'm not playing much. I mean, maybe a receiver, maybe a player or two on the Washington State side, but I'm not looking at much from Oregon, to be honest. And I don't love much from the Michigan State Minnesota game either.
Well, yeah, I was torn. Do I even touch Ibrahim? I don't know. Michigan State had such a horrific pass defense last year. The one guy I'm looking at is Brevin Spann-Ford. 3,500 really cool value play there, especially with Altman Bell out. So maybe I get in the mix with him, but yeah, I don't play much on the MSU side.
Yeah, the problem with Ibrahim is just he's so expensive, and there's other guys that I like. That Ibrahim's a great back. He's probably the best player on the slate, maybe him or Bijan Robinson. But to pay that much for him, and you just have to get so creative elsewhere. He's great. He can get there, but especially in GPPs, he has to be so good to pay off against which should be a pretty good front from Michigan State. So I'm not telling you he can't do it, but I just think from a strategy perspective, it's hard to get there at that price.
I agree. I'd rather pay for Bijan or Corum for sure. 1,300 cheaper for a guy that probably has even a better matchup. Yeah, I'm with you.
So that's it for the fades. Who's your favorite game to target this week?
The highest total is TCU SMU, and I'm there, but you could talk me into the UT TTU game too. I think Texas Tech has a lot of value, but let's just stick with the TCU SMU, and it's got to be Rashee Rice, right? I mean, he's been special over the first 3 games, 28 catches, almost 9 a game, just a little over 491 yards. He looks like top 3 receiver in college. He's hard to guard. They almost force it too much to him, but that's okay in DFS. So I do like that as a game stack, and I love Rice. I'm willing to pay up for him. Yeah, he's gonna get thrown to an absurd amount of times. Yep.
He seems like a must play to me, right? He just seems that he's the best receiver on the slate, I think, by a wide margin. The price that more you have to pay for him isn't a big enough gap to scare me off. I almost want to. I'm gonna be way overexposed to him this week for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And then, on the other side, I could see myself playing Dugan a little bit. SMU wants to play fast. They want to play, a good fast pace basketball style, right? And Dugan's not a good thrower, but he's got good legs, and he does put up some points in that aspect. I I might be able to get some Miller too. I don't love their receivers, but out of those two, I could see TCU getting some points on the ground.
Well, that's what it is. I think this is a good game environment. I think it's going to be a scoring game. I think SMU is going to score. So they're going to come back. I normally don't like Duggan. I don't like to play him. But I just think because of the game environment, he will have a couple of games where he breaks a slate because of his rushing. This probably would – this is the place where that makes the most sense. So if there's a week to play him, it's probably this one. I'm still undecided. And if I do play him, it's because I want to get exposure to this game, and I'm going to just have some of this game in a lineup or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not bad at 7,100, right? I mean,
right.
you can build a good game stack in this game. It's not that expensive. Rasheed is, but Mordecai, some other guys, you can build a good game stack here
for sure. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So I like that game as well. What are your thoughts on this Duke-Kansas game?
I like it. I mean, I love Jalen Daniels. We've already seen him just explode in almost every aspect when we've been able to get a piece of him. They finally kind of priced him in the right range now, 7,900. I also like Jalen Calhoun. I want to go double Jalen's this week. And Calhoun on the Duke side, I'm very interested in wide receiver for 6,100.
I agree. What about do you have any interest in Duke's quarterback?
I do.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, I do. I really think, Kansas is, again, we talk fast paced, but they are. They that's what they want to play. They want to play that style. And if they can score on Houston, they can do pretty well on a lot of teams. So they're going to do well on Duke, and Duke's going to have to keep up. I do like him in this spot. I think this is another good game stack, like you said.
Yeah, I think Kansas proven they're legit. They're a real team, right? No, they're not going to the playoffs or anything, but they're a team. They're not a joke anymore. They're going to compete this year. I think Kansas is going to win this game. I think my only concern is, can Duke keep up? Right? I don't know. I don't know what Duke is. Duke is what they're 3-0, right?
Yeah, they are.
But
don't they have a good tight end? Oh no, he went to
he's gone.
Yeah, or was Bobo the guy in UCLA? Was he ex Duke? I think
he was at Duke, but he wasn't the tight end. Another guy that played tight end who was also good.
Yeah. But Calhoun, I mean, I'm definitely interested in, and I do think Leonard. I think Leonard's. I do think they can maybe not match point for point, but they can keep a little pace here for a while.
Okay, I agree. The good thing about Leonard is he runs, so you get that dual threat ability, and he might break one off for you. If this gets to be a high-scoring back-and-forth game, then I think you can have a game environment here where you play 3 or 4 guys from this game. And make
absolutely. I mean, Kansas is still Kansas, right? They're not going to beat them by 30. Like, there's going to be some opportunities here for Duke.
All right. I love it. How about Maryland and Michigan? The problem with Michigan is this. They're historically a great defense. You want to think they're a good defense. They haven't played anyone worth talking about this year. Like, honestly, I wouldn't credit any game they've played because they've played such bad teams that you can't use that as anything. So I don't know what they are.
It is crazy. Like, Hawaii, out of the 131 D1 teams, Hawaii and UConn are probably 128, 130. Like, it's just like they shouldn't even be allowed to schedule both, let alone one. And they got both back-to-back weeks. Right. But here's one thing about Jim Harbaugh, and I think we all know this. When he wins with margin, he really wins with margin. He was passing in the fourth quarter in both those games. I know he's backup quarterback, and you got to try and stop him, but he's not one that's going to slow it down, and he's going to try and beat you by 50. And I'm not saying he can beat Maryland by 50, but in my mind, that one game it's still in my head of Talia last year against Iowa when he threw 4 or 5 picks on a primetime game, great defense. I do have some concerns on the Maryland side, and then Michigan, I think they're going to really have a good game. So I do like Corum. I might be staying away from Maryland is really where I'm getting at. I think it's going to be hard for them. They're treading uphill like a lot of Michigan players. I think I could see myself get McCarthy, but 7,700 seems just a little much for a guy that might be 250 yards passing at best.
I'm with you. A lot of people like McCarthy this week. I'm going to need to see more. I don't think he's bad.
No,
it just doesn't make like 7,700. He doesn't run the ball like 20. He's a runner, but like they're not like making the offense around his running. He gets a couple carries and he can break one, which would help. But 7,700, you're banking on him producing on the run, which I'm not seeing like he's like super like a committed running quarterback. He just happens to be having some scramble ability. So I'm with you. I think the price is too high for him. I don't think this is the matchup, and he doesn't seem like a guy who's going to throw for 300. So.
No.
I just don't know. I don't think the upside is there for him. If he was 66,000 flat, then I would say, okay, I can see it. But at this price, I just think there's better options.
I do. One of my favorite players is Edwards, and he's out. So, I mean, is there
Is he
value?
confirmed out or questionable?
He's showing out on DraftKings. So out.
Here's a big boost to Corum then.
Yeah, that's why I think Corum's a great play, and I might be able to get some Stokes in here now. I mean, he had 8 carries last week, 8 the week before. At 3,900, and if I'm expecting maybe a game with margin, he could come in late. But yeah, Corum is still the guy. I could see some Ronnie Bell too, but I'm not going to stack Ronnie Bell with McCarthy. That is for certain. Nah,
you're not spending all your money on that. There's way better ways to spend. I think you're right. I think if JJ Stokes is number 2 this week, if he gets an extra 6-7 carries in this game with 3,900, that price is really good. So that could be an interesting play. So keep an eye out on Edwards, see if he's playing or not. All right. What about this Florida-Tennessee game? What are we doing here?
Gotta love it, right? I mean, I do think we get to see the Josh Heupel offense really at its best. I think we've seen Florida have, they've let up points in each and every one of their contests, even against Kentucky and Utah, and then last week against South Florida. So I like a good stack here on both sides. Tennessee is vulnerable, right? I don't think they're just going to stop anyone. So I can see myself getting back in the game with Florida. I'm trying to see. Yeah, he's playing. Okay, yeah, I could see myself with Richardson. I could. I mean, that's a good price at 6,800.
Richardson's the only guy in Florida I can get myself behind. They're a similar team. Not that I dislike them. It's just they spread the ball out. A lot of guys get touches. It's not condensed targets to anyone or back at the 3 backs get the ball. So Richardson's the guy because he'll throw it or run one in too. So if I do go that way, I go Richardson. But I love the Tennessee side because this Florida defense has not looked good.
No.
And Tennessee is good. And so I think they're going to score and Florida's going to have to keep up. So if Tillman plays, which it looks like he's not going to play, then I'm just going to go higher or McCoy or mix it up, play somebody with them. But you don't have to prepare anyone with Hooker. Hooker can go alone too. He can rush one in. So I do think Tennessee's going to score a lot. I'm going to get some shares of them, but it could be a running back. It could be Hooker. I'll play one of these, Hyatt or McCoy or one of these secondary receivers, especially if Tillman's out.
Yeah, I love the call. Yeah, Tillman, I mean, a monster, right? And I think he helped propel us 2 weeks ago in the game against Pitt. But, yeah, he's got to play. And if he plays, I'm all in. But, yeah, it's questionable. So then I do like your strategy backing up the other 2. So, and I like Hooker. I think Hooker's a great play this week.
Honestly, I think Hooker's a good play every week. I mean, unless he's playing Alabama or somebody or Georgia, Hooker's awesome.
He is awesome. And I mean, we're getting a guy that, his floor has been 23, 24 points, but his ceiling's near 40. So absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think this game is an interesting one. What are you doing with Notre Dame and North Carolina?
Well, I am, I know North Carolina and they're not a very good defense.
Oh, they're one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. And Drew Pine actually, played pretty well last week. I mean, I know he didn't put up a ton of points. I mean, he got like 14 DK points, but he showed a little moxie coming back against Cal. I'm in. I did play their running back last week and got some good value on what's his name? Estime? Yeah, he got like 20 points last week at a low volume. Now he's up to 5,100. So gets a little tough there with Tyree, but he seems to be the guy that's getting a bit more touches. So I'm still good with him at this game at 5,100. Still value, I think. And then Meyer. I think Meyer's just going to be a beast this game.
I'm totally with you. I love the Notre Dame backs. I don't think North Carolina can't stop a nosebleed. So
no,
they're going to get the ball. I'm not going to play both of them together, but I'll have both of them in different lineups and mix and match which one I play between Tyree and Estime. And Meyer, like we've been saying all year, Meyer I think is an NFL player, first round pick. He is awesome. North Carolina can't stop anyone. If they're going to the air, they're going to him. He's going to get a ton of catches. He's got a safe floor. I love him for cash, but he's totally viable in GPPs as well. And then Pine's the one where you got to make a decision on because, how good is Pine? Probably not that good, but against a terrible defense and as cheap as he is, he can have a good day here. Like that can happen because of how bad this defense is. So, it's not someone I would rely on, but but because he's so cheap, he's probably worth taking a shot on.
Yeah, and I even think on the other side, I think May's, I think he's worth playing because if Carolina's going to let up this many points, he's going to have to keep them in the game. And we saw he is athletic. He can move. He can run. I just want to see if Downs is playing. And that's really a big key to this game. He's questionable. But they're saying he was on Twitter the other day and said he's playing. So if he's playing, I mean, he's a big boon for that offense. And I could see myself pairing May and Downs.
My only concern with May, he looks like he's going to be one of the best fantasy players in the country this year. There's a lot to like.
Yeah.
This Notre Dame defense,
yep,
isn't bad. They contained Ohio State, and I'll take Ohio State's offense over this North Carolina today.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, right? You can't just say, well, they stopped them, so they're going to stop. That's not really how college works. Like, it's a different matchup, it's a different week. But I can see, I'd almost prefer May in a cash game. It's hard to envision him breaking the slate against this Notre Dame team, where I see him having a good game, but maybe not like his best week.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I can still see him in the 20s, but that's not like breaking the game, like you said. Right. So cash is safe. I think that's a good point.
Agreed. All right, so I know you mentioned them already. Talk to me about the Texas game.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bijan Robinson all day for me. I mean, 183, 3 TDs last week against a feisty road runner, UTSA. The only thing that scares me, and I mean, I know NC State got a few yards on the ground last week. I think they bunched up about $120. But so far in the year, Texas Tech has only allowed 2.3 yards per carry on the ground. So I do have a little bit of concern, but again, it's against a Houston team that is so inept at running the ball, right? Murray State, forget about it. And Texas Tech, they're okay at running it, and NC State is okay at running it, but they're more known for their quarterback. So maybe I got to take that with a grain of salt. So I'm going to still think Bijan's a smash play here for me. He'll be heavily owned. That worries me a tad, but I think this game could play with pace. I think Bijan is still a guy I'm very interested in at 8,300. I think it's still valuable at 8,300.
It's funny. I'm laughing because I went through the exact thought process you did on that team where I looked at it as like they've been pretty good against the run, but they haven't played Bijan Robinson. And this is a whole other beast. Until at first I was like, maybe I shouldn't play him. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, they haven't had anything like Bijan.
Make me feel better. That's how the wheels were going.
And then that's where we go back to. It's like if you want to pay a top dollar for a running back, it makes more sense to go Bijan than Ibrahim at the $1,300 savings. I just think Bijan is again he might be the first running back drafted in the draft. He's a very talented player, and without Ewers playing, they're probably going to just make it a priority to feed him the ball as much as they possibly can. So, you got to have some exposure to him this week. Hard to fade him in this kind of environment. How about on the Texas Tech side?
Yeah, I mean I do like Smith. He's been okay. I don't love the receivers, though, in this game. They just have too many. I remember watching last week trying to, get some stacks going with them, and I just couldn't get there because they just spread it out too wide. So I might look closer. If I go Smith, I'll probably maybe just play him as a super flex and not stack. But if I leave him alone, I will maybe. So Taj Brooks was so underwhelming last week, but I know he's their bell cow when they get it going. So at this point, I might have to wait on him and just rely on Smith. And he might be my only guy on Texas Tech side until I figure out what they're doing. Yeah,
the other guy I'll mention is Bradley, who's a receiver. He's 4K. I just think they underpriced him as the guy who's tied. They have two guys who are probably their number one. Him and Price. I don't love him. I don't think you have to play him, but if you're looking for a 4K receiver, he's probably one of the guys you can look to.
I like that call.
All right. So we got to talk about Indiana and Cincinnati. So I want to start by saying two things. Cincinnati's defense is bad. I mean, no, reverse that. Indiana's defense is bad.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati's looked pretty good. Cincinnati's got some playmakers, especially last week. So I'm probably going to be targeting Indiana all year because unless they show me something else, they don't look like they can stop much. So they look like a good team to target. The problem with Cincinnati is they got a few guys they feed the ball to. All of them can give a big day. And last week they had, 3 guys over 100 yards. They're running back and 2 receivers. So they can have a big day. I think the running back McClellan's in play. Scott, who's one of the best receiver, and Tucker. I would play any of those guys in Cincinnati side, my preference is going to be their running back in the club.
Yeah, and then on the Indiana side, I mean, Basilick, he's been throwing the ball. And when he's been playing two D1 teams, WKU and Illinois, 52 attempts, 55 attempts. So, I got to get myself some Cam Camper. I think he's underpriced in this one, 5,600. I know Cincy, like you said, good D, we can still respect that. But if I got a guy that they're willing to throw 50 attempts, he's going to be seeing Camper 8 to 10 times easily in this game. So at 5,600, he's probably my favorite play on the Indy side. I agree with you on the Cincy side, though. I think Scott's good, and but I might target more of the running backs.
And the only thing I'll add about on the Indy side is it's clear they're mispricing Camper. For a guy that gets too many targets, I don't understand why he's not getting. He should at the minimal be mid 6K just for your targets alone. That's it. I will add though, Cincinnati's got a good secondary. They've restricted receivers so far this year. But again, like you said, a receiver getting as many targets as him should be cost more. So I think he's safe. I think he can play in any format because of how many targets he's getting. He's safe enough on the floor side to play in cash, but he's probably not going to be high owned for someone who's going to get 10 targets. I'd be okay with him in GPP too.
Yeah, I mean, we always target one or two of these guys each week, and we've been pretty good at. He's probably one of the ones that's probably underpriced the most this week, in my opinion. And you're right, Cincy's good.
Cincy's got a good secondary, but it's a spot where it's just a mispricing, and so that's where you take a shot on somebody because you're getting a value on the price tag.
Absolutely.
Any other games we didn't talk about? I guess the only other one that we didn't mention is that we can touch on quickly is Penn State in Central Michigan.
And look, we've been on, but Nick Singleton is just coming. He's coming of age real quick here. 2 straight 100-yard games. Now he's finally being priced as the number one running back. He's not getting as many carries, but he's still the break. He's the one that can break the game open, right? So I think Singleton's still decent play at 6,400. You could talk me into maybe getting a little bit of shares of I'm trying. Why am I? Sorry, my thing froze. Of Clifford, but I could get in there. I got a little disappointed in Tinsley last week, so maybe that's just me being a little scared now. I know he's good, but they just seem that they can't get on the ball. So maybe some Clifford and Singleton for me.
Clifford's price went up. Let's not forget. I remember thinking
that's a lot
early in the year. They had Clifford in the 5K range, and I was like, "Listen, Clifford's not bad. Why are they giving him so cheap?" I was like, I didn't want to play him in the matchup. I remember it was like week 1 or 2, but I was like, at this price, you might have to consider him. Now he's the most expensive quarterback, which is like an over adjustment, right? It should have been somewhere in between. But the Central Michigan team is bad against the pass, so this is his opportunity to break the slate. I certainly think he can. I don't think I like him in the cash game perspective for his price. But if you want to take a shot on him on GPP, I do think he can have a big day. I think he's worth putting some shares on and maybe hoping, it's Tinsley or Parker that have a big receiving day.
Yeah, and we got a question from Yvonne, and he was a guy who's going to bring – I think Lou Nichols is in play here. Kind of like Frank Gore Jr., like they're going to feed this guy. And Penn State showed a little vulnerability to the run last week. I know Bigsby didn't have a huge game, but he averaged almost 5 yards a carry. So I do think Nichols is in play here. I can play Nichols. I think the price is fair too. Central Michigan, again, Penn State's good, right? I think we can all agree that the win at Purdue is good. Last week's win at Auburn, good. I don't expect a true hangover, but I expect this one to be maybe a little more competitive than some people think, just because that's tough when in an SEC road game coming back versus a non-conference opponent, a little hangover. So I think Nichols is in play.
Nichols is the most talented player. Nichols is a stud. He's been a stud for a couple of years now. Penn State does have a good D. They have a good rush D, but Nichols should get the ball. I think Nichols. I'm with you. I think Nichols is in play because he's very good. He's going to play good players, and his price is affordable. Nichols is probably the only guy on the Central Michigan side I'll be looking at. And I just want to say I agree with you on Singleton. I mean, he looks. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts getting a bigger share of the carries. Yep. And when that happens, he could end up being one of the best backs in the country. So you want to buy him now before his price tag goes all the way up, I see no reason why he doesn't have a monster game against them.
Yeah, and I mean, Kayvon Lee might not play too.
Which would be big.
Yeah, so yeah, I think. And hey, we didn't, there was one other game, and I was curious. Oh no, we did. We hit it. We hit Mizzou Auburn, didn't we? Yeah. We just said we're kind of staying away. But one point I did want to make in that game, I thought Mizzou's running game, Cody Schrader is just kind of interesting to me. Auburn let up a lot on the ground last week. He is priced at $3,500. Can't figure out if they're going to give him the ball or not. Take a shot in a GPP with him.
He's cheap enough. Yeah. With that price, he's worth taking a flyer on because he's so cheap. If he breaks one for a touchdown, he's more than hit value.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a wrap for this week. I think it's going to be a fun week. I mean, if you look at the matchups, you're starting to see how to funnel different defenses, who to target. By another week or two, we're going to be really honed in on these defenses and who they are. So we're just getting better and better, and we've already started off the season super hot. So keep dialing back in. Don't forget, hit the like button, give us a follow, and feel free to go on Twitter and let us know how you did. If you're making money, let us know. We'd love to see it. Good luck.